You know, one of the most powerful forces in human psychology is curiosity. The moment you withhold something, people lean in, they want to know more, they need to know more, it's almost primal. That's why I always say never tell people what you do. At least not right away, because when you start a conversation by laying out your resume or flashing your business card, you're closing the loop before it even begins. There's no tension, no mystery, no reason for them to keep listening, keep wondering, keep leaning in. I've walked into rooms where everyone's introducing themselves like it's a LinkedIn profile reading. I'm a senior manager at X. I'm a consultant for Y. And the moment someone says it, people nod politely, box them up in their minds, and move on. There's no spark, no intrigue. The conversation dies before it's born. But if you walk in and simply say something like, I build things that make people stop and think, or even better, say nothing at all, you'll notice something interesting happens. People ask, they follow up, wait, what do you mean? What kind of things? How do you do that? And suddenly, it's not an introduction, it's an interaction. You've turned a monologue into a dialogue. That's when the real connection happens. Because when someone asks what you do, they've opened the door to care, they've invested a little of their attention. And now, instead of being another voice in the noise, you've become a signal, something stands out. You've piqued their interest, and now they're coming to you for clarity instead of you forcing it onto them. Now, let me tell you, this isn't about playing games. This is about understanding human nature. When something is obvious, we scroll past it. When something is unclear but feels valuable, we investigate. That's how our minds are wired. We chase the unknown that hints at meaning. So when you introduce yourself with mystery, you're not being vague, you're being strategic. You're respecting the intelligence of the person in front of you. You're inviting them into a discovery. People don't remember titles. They remember how you made them feel. They remember stories, moments, surprises. They remember the time they asked you, what do you do? And you gave them a story instead of a label. You shared an experience instead of an elevator pitch. That kind of moment stays with them, long after job titles are forgotten. And here's the thing, when you don't lead with your title, you're not hiding anything. You're just shifting the spotlight. You're showing people the why before the what. You're revealing the soul of what you do, not just the structure. You're speaking to something deeper: purpose, vision, effect, and that creates a connection no business card ever could. I've seen doors open, deals close, and lives change not because someone shouted what they do, but because they inspired someone to ask, because they held back just enough to make someone want more. And once they had that attention, they didn't waste it, they made it count. They showed what they were about through passion, clarity, energy, not credentials. So when I say never tell people what you do, I'm not saying you should hide. I'm saying you should elevate the way you show up, elevate the way you engage, make your presence about meaning, not just identity. Let your essence do the talking before your resume ever shows up. When you do that, you don't just introduce yourself, you make people remember you. We live in a world obsessed with labels. From the moment we meet someone, the first thing we want to know is, what do you do? And not who are you, or what drives you, but what's your label? And that's the trap, because the moment you answer with a label, you shrink. You reduce the depth and the complexity of who you are into a job title, into a predefined box that someone else already thinks they understand. The truth is, labels limit perception. You might think you're offering clarity, but you're actually closing doors. Let me explain. You meet someone and say, I'm a financial advisor. That's it. Conversation over. Because in their mind, they already know what that means. They've slotted you into the same mental file as every other financial advisor they've met. May be good, may be bad, may be boring. It doesn't matter. You've been categorized, and their curiosity shuts off. But here's the real problem. Labels never capture the real you. They don't reflect your fire, your heart, the way you solve problems differently from anyone else. They don't communicate your story, your struggles, your triumphs. A title is not your truth. And when you lead with a title, you give people permission to stop looking any deeper. That's why I challenge you, resist the urge to define yourself by a role. You're more than that. You're not just what you do, you're how you think, why you care, and the energy you bring into a room. That doesn't fit into a label, and it shouldn't. Because the moment someone hears your job title, they start making assumptions. Sometimes they underestimate you. Sometimes they overestimate you. Either way, they're not seeing you, they're seeing the frame they've built around your label. And listen, I get it. We've been trained to think that our value comes from our title. That's what school teaches. That's what resumes teach. Here's who I am. I'm a manager. I'm an analyst. I'm a coach. But what if you stopped saying what you are and started showing what you believe? What if, instead of saying I'm a photographer, you said, I help people see beauty in what they normally overlook? Now that's a conversation. That's depth. That's human. That's the real you showing up. See, the danger with labels is that they feel safe. They're easy. They're socially acceptable. But they also make you blend in. And you weren't built to blend in. You were built to stand out, not by shouting louder, but by showing up more authentically. And authenticity doesn't wear a name tag. It's felt. It's seen in how you carry yourself, how you speak with conviction, how you listen with intent. That doesn't come from your job title. That comes from the work behind the work, the story behind the skill. I've seen people light up a room not because of what they did, but because of how they made people feel. They weren't introducing themselves with a label. They were making themselves known by their presence. That's what people remember. That's what gets shared. That's what opens doors, not your job title, but your truth. And don't get me wrong, it's not about hiding what you do. It's about refusing to let that define your identity. There's a big difference. You might be in tech, but that doesn't mean tech is all you are. Maybe what you really do is solve chaos. Maybe you bring clarity to complexity. Maybe you're the one who can take a mess and turn it into a masterpiece. That's what people need to hear. That's what they'll remember. So the next time someone asks you what you do, pause. Don't reach for the label. Don't shrink into a title. Let your essence rise instead. Speak from the part of you that knows you're more than a job, because you are. You are a spark, a solution, a story worth knowing, and no label can ever fully contain